The palace walls stood tall, yet within them hearts broke in silence, between silk and shadow, behind eyes that glistened, where royalty wore robes of gold but bore the ache of love's defiance. He stood alone with 1,000 verses within him, unwritten. The moon knew his secret, the stars had heard his sighs. He was a prince, yet prisoner of the wars within his skies. She walked away in silence, her anklets fading from the marble. Her gaze did not accuse, her lips held no quarrel. What had changed? What wind had turned the tide of grace? Was it her silence or his distance that broke the delicate lace? She was not just his queen. She was the light in his verses, the muse of his falcons, the rhythm behind his curses. But a rose had bloomed in another hidden garden, a gaze too piercing, too wild to pardon. Another woman, like a mirage in the dunes of fate, appeared, and his heart began to hesitate. Not from lust or betrayal, nor from pride or power, but from a longing to feel again, even for an hour. The world sees crowns, but never the cracks in the throne. Even kings crave love when the nights feel alone. She knew, the one who walked away without looking back. She read the shift in his soul, the signs he did not lack. She had watched him pause longer at someone else's eyes, and in that pause, she saw the end of paradise. O falcon rider, O poet of the desert wind, why do you let love slip when once it had sinned? Against your loneliness, breaking it open with grace, and giving your poems a living, breathing face? He stood at the window, the phone against his ear, but her voice was not there, just the echo of fear. The desert spoke back, not with words but with pain, as if dunes wept for her, calling out her name. And the other, she stood draped in mystery, eyes like storms, mouth a haunting history. He loved her beauty, but feared her depth, for she carried no loyalty, only breath. Still, the heart is no servant to reason's throne. It goes where it wishes, even if alone. And so the prince walked paths where fire danced. For a new face he took love's oldest chance. But Fazza is no ordinary lover in haste. His soul wears verses, not time to waste. Every turn in his journey is carved in rhyme, each heartbreak echoing beyond the sands of time. He missed the way she used to wait by the gate, the soft flutter of her scarf when he came late. He remembered how she never needed to speak, her silence stronger than any words he'd seek. Her tears had never fallen before crowds or walls, but alone where shadows stretch in royal halls. She wore dignity like perfume, invisible yet bold, and left without anger, just a story untold. He asked himself, was she driven, or did she fly? Did I lose her love, or did I teach it to die? She never begged, she never fought, she just left, and took with her every thought. Now the palace feels wide, but empty like a grave. A prince with all, yet with nothing to save. He still writes, yes, he writes like a... And the wind blew softly through the courtyards of memory, where shadows danced with light and silence held the key. He stood by the gate where once she waited with eyes so calm, and now that same place held only the ghost of her palm. He whispered her name in the hush of the dunes, wishing time could turn back to forgotten moons. He wore the regret not as guilt, but as flame, burning in the folds of his soul without blame. She had not cursed, not questioned, not wept in despair. She simply folded her love and vanished into air. That dignity, it crushed him more than screams ever could, for in her grace, she taught him what silence understood. In the desert, he found himself walking again, each grain a prayer, each step a vein. He searched not for her, but for pieces of self, that he had left behind when he chose someone else. The other, yes, she was beauty defined, but beauty alone cannot tether the mind. She dazzled like jewels under morning sun, but she could not hold what the other had won. The warmth of shared silence, the comfort of gaze, the way one woman could calm his wild blaze. She was the balm to his ache, the moon to his tide, the one who never needed to chase, yet always stood beside. Now he drinks from goblets, gold and rimmed with fire, but every sip tastes empty, void of desire. He is surrounded by praise, by servants and songs, but each echo reminds him of the right turned wrong. He watches the falcons, once hers to name. They fly still, but it is not the same, for she spoke to them with something divine, and now they screech in protest to time. He writes. Oh yes, he writes without end, each poem like a letter he'll never send. To her, to the woman who chose to leave, not because she stopped loving but to grieve. She grieved the man who began to forget, who smiled at another while her heart was still wet, with dreams of forever, with silent grace, but watched them fade from his shifting face. She did not wait to be cast aside. She read the signs and chose her pride. And in that power she became more than queen. She became the echo of what should have been. He wonders if she hears of his life from afar, of the woman beside him, of the fame in the bazaar. Does she flinch when they mention his name? Or does she smile, untouched by blame? He does not know, and that mystery aches, like the desert after rain, when everything breaks. He rides his horse across the dunes alone, the same horse she once claimed as her own. She had named it Sabr, patience in flight, and now even the horse seems to lose its might. He feels it in the gallop, the drag of the reins, as if the beast too mourns in silent refrains. He returns each night to a palace aglow, but no warmth greets him, only the show. He sees reflections in mirrors too grand, but never the woman who once held his hand. He asks the stars, where did I fail? Was it my silence, or her love grown pale? But the sky does not answer with truth or lie. It only offers